there's one that I found quite amusing. Also from Adam Karroum, who's over across in Adelaide. Ridge cap feet are now available, a mounting solution we've all been waiting for. This had nearly 15,000 views on Crap Solar.
Wow.
Anything to add with this unique design that you guys sort of found? Like,
yeah, there's a couple of things on that one.
is Clenergy going to sign it off, tick it off?
Well, it's not so much Clenergy, but under Australian standards, you just can't get that close to the ridge, unfortunately. So
yeah,
that's a bit of an issue. But
unless you do wind tunnel testing, Sean, I'm told.
Well, yeah. Look, I mean, I'm sure there's ways around it, but you've got to think about it from the perspective of a structural engineer, right? So, you're a structural engineer. You've got to, you're certified or you're insured to be able to sign off on these things, and you've got to be able to basically, if something goes wrong and you sign off on a job like that, you're fighting against the Australian standards at that point if it ever goes to court. So.
Is this the ridge capping install?
Yeah, this is the one where he's installed up to the very edge of the ridge.
Oh,
he's
right
also
on the ridge capping.
Yeah, he's
triple rail too.
I'm sure you're going to bring up a picture of this, Costa. Is it?
Yeah. In post production, I'll get the team working on it. Yeah, they should be popping up above our heads somewhere. Yeah.
This is obviously a parody. This is obviously not his install.
No, obviously not. No.
Oh, okay, because it looks like those 240 watt Hyundai Polys, Costa.
Hyundai. Well, we've got the new 350 shingle at the moment. Yeah.
But I'm really I'm just puzzled how they went to the, obviously read the manual and they thought they'll do the triple rail. And then
is it a triple rail one? Okay.
Yeah, it's got the triple rail. Yeah, top row's got the triple rail, so they've obviously thought they're meeting the clamping zone requirements as per the manual. And then they've just they got the L foot straight through the ridge capping there. So they've just thought, obviously, I can't pull out the top tile because it'll crack the ridge capping, so I'll just drill straight through it.
Yeah, look, it's not.
This happen a lot though. Like, people make the same mistake a lot though, Jack. You guys have seen.
That's not on tile. On tin, obviously, you run the gauntlet every time of being within 200 mil of the ridge capping. But tile, it's day one stuff. Really, you should be, quite a few tiles down there, with the tile bracket. You just don't do it. It's ASLM 70.2. Yeah, Sean, with wind loading.
Yeah. Although I was going to say, sometimes in certain cases, if this was on a townhouse, I think in certain cases you can actually go. There is no exclusion zones in those cases. So,
we don't know where this install is. Like, Adam's in South Australia, but maybe it's or anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world, like where he's found it. Like, I thought we'll might have to sort of ask him, but I'm sure who knows what other rules people have in other places, I guess.
Is this the case, Sean, where you'd have to get a structural engineer to sign off?
I don't even think you could. I mean, if it was just a general resi install, I think you'd struggle to find a structural engineer to sign off on that, because they're basically going against what you've got in the standards, in the Australian standards. So they can do it, obviously, where it makes structural sense. I mean, this all comes down to foundational mathematics at the end of the day, but anytime a structural engineer has to do anything that's outside of those standards, they want to be sure that they know what they're doing, because, if anything comes back later on, then they could lose their licensing. So, yeah.
It looks like here they haven't even used a screw through the L foot. They've just siliconed the L foot onto the ridge capping. If you look in the photos, no screw. Maybe that's a Sikaflex. Do your best and the rest, I guess.
I'm hoping that whoever took those photos was there to rip that system off and reinstall, hopefully.
Yeah, but if you're I've been in that situation before, Sean, when I was doing sales, and and the customer's like, "Oh, can you just install them here up against the ridge capping?" And you sort of have to explain, "No, you can't," and then you have to sort of go through all the relevant standards and installation manuals, just convey the point to the customer. But I guess now I could just go back with this photo.
Yeah, basically.
Looks like a flat boral shingle terracotta tile too. Jeez.
It's a real challenging one.
But I'm just baffled by the 3 grail. Like they've obviously done something right.
Well, yeah, potentially.
And well, they've tried, and then
We're trying to find the positive, Sean. Like,
maybe they're trying to hide the fact that they've obviously siliconed an L foot onto the ridge capping, haven't used a tile bracket. Oh, we'll put 3 rails in, and you won't be able to see it. It'll cover the whole thing up. That's a great post. All right, that's a Friday night one. I think that is.
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
I'd try too hard to get into the mind of that installer necessarily.
It'd be fascinating.
well, I've got
But
a lot
then, when they finished the install, they both thought they were a hero.
clocking off early down at the pub for a couple of cheeky ones and get all this constructive feedback on Facebook a few weeks later. So
Because those panels costed, they would be, what would they be? That's like an old poly, like 3 bus bars. Would that be like a 220, 230?
I would have said,
panel?
yeah, so, yeah, maybe even less or something in that range. Maybe
So
that's,
this should be from a while ago then, right?
So it was probably before
yeah.
crap
Well,
solids.
that's a scary thing. Exactly, it's been like that for a long time. But look, you see it on Facebook and other sort of platforms, like people sort of reusing panels or clearing off old warehouses and stuff, finding things, So who knows?
So Sean, just quickly on this one, if it was Clenergy and say this thing ripped off the roof, what sort of happens there is that's obviously void of the installation manual and obviously the relevant standards that go with it.
Yeah, that would be as per the install guide, you've got exclusion zones obviously on most resi installs. As I said, there is some very rare exceptions, like when with certain townhouses, but generally on a spiral shingle tile roof like that, it's just going to run a normal resi house, and they haven't complied with the exclusion zones. So,
what's the townhouse reference?
It's to do with the way that they. I won't go into the whole in and outs of it today, but I think because of the way that they calculate whether you're on a certain type of building that that will have exclusions, you calculate. So there's one way of calculating, which is sorry, let me just get my lights on here. There we go. Whoa, that's bright. I mean, I can run through the maths if you want, but basically, there's two ways to calculate these sort of things, and which is most resi properties where it ends up being you've got an exclusion zone, which is 2S, which is S being the distance between the top of the roof sheet and the bottom of the panel, times 2. So that's generally your exclusion zone in most cases. And then
it's normally 200 mil, normally, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ends up being.
Yeah, usually 200 mil, but it can be anywhere between, I think, 100 and 600 under the standards. But, and so the way that you determine whether you're using that methodology is by the measurements of the building itself. And that's all, you can find all that info in the install guides. If it falls with outside of those specs, then it ends up being a situation which is where you don't have you've got different zones. So you've got a corner, an edge, intermediate, and internal zone instead of an exclusion and an upwind, downwind, and central zone. So, but yeah, I won't go into the maths on that one today. It's a little bit it's too much for
People can contact you directly, I guess.
Yeah, of course, or just jump on the website, look at the install guide. It's pretty simple. We're also working on a calculator for the EasyQuote tool. So anyone who's got access to the EasyQuote tool, hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have a roof zone calculator on there, which will be pretty handy because it can be quite difficult, especially on these commercial jobs where you've got, like I said, the corner, edge, intermediate and internal zones, and you've got your panel layouts, and you're kind of like, okay, so half the panels in one zone, half's in the other. What spacings do I use, and those sort of things that can help with that. So
I love your calculator, and as you guys know, I'm relatively basic, even though doing solar for like 9 years. But that's like it makes it so easy, I guess, to calculate it. But even with that example there, like which sort of zone the modules are in, but everyone's just using the worst case scenario, but potentially, I guess, increasing their outlay initially, so if you can clarify that with this extra addition to the calculator, like happy days. Like